Hello everybody, this is Howard the Teaserking coming to you with week 5 of college football. Had a very strong week last week in college and pro. Kind of came to a epiphany on college. College is a little more different than pros. Not necessarily more difficult, but different. You have so many new players, switch quarterbacks. In the NFL, you know you're getting Tom Brady, you know you're getting Peyton Manning, you know you're getting Eli Manning. They're not switching quarterbacks. If they do, like this week, Roethlisberger's out and Vic's quartering, or Ryan Mallett's quartering. You know all this. You know who the player is. You know what you're getting. In college, like Texas, they switch quarterbacks, and all of a sudden this other kid's really good. Or he's better, some kid gets injured. You get new quarterbacks year to year, so you have to keep an eye on it, and it gives you a whole different dynamic where you might bet a team. You say, oh, their quarterback's terrible, and then they switch quarterbacks, all of a sudden, boom, here they go. So partially, also you got to watch the new coaches. Like I think the Baylor coach went to SMU or Tulsa or one of these schools. All of a sudden they're throwing the ball, and all of a sudden I noticed they're an over team, where last year they were terrible. So what I've done is I've created over-unders on the teams, so I can rank them over and under. For example, TCU, they're an over. Great offense, defense is killed by injuries, but they're going to play high-scoring games. So instead of messing around like laying 15 points, if I can see two explosive teams, I'm just going to go over. Or like Northwestern, no quarterback, weak offense, great defense. I'm going to go under at Northwestern. So that's what I'm looking for. Strong defensive teams without a quarterback. Strong offensive teams without a defense. And that's the best of both worlds. Then occasionally you get an Ohio State, and you just scratch your head, because right now they're really not a good team. They're not the number one team. Ole Miss is the number one team. Then I'd say it's probably Baylor, then Michigan State, then maybe Ohio State. But if you look at their stats, you just look at quarterback rankings in the Big Ten. Carnell Jones is near the bottom. Barrett should be the quarterback for that system, because he keeps wanting to run Jones in an option. Really weak. But the point of this thesis is to mark the team's overs and unders, and then when I look at a game, I'm looking at 4 dimensions. Do I want to play the over in the game, the under in the game, or do I want to play the team or the favorite of the dog? But before, I was just playing the favorite and the dog. I really didn't pay much attention to the overs and the unders. So what I've done is every team I've marked over or under team. Like I said, Northwestern, under. A lot of the Big Ten are under teams. Michigan, Minnesota, and then you get your over teams, mostly, Cal, Washington State, Oregon, and then, your Baylors, your TCUs, your Texas Techs. That was a wonderful over last week, the Texas Tech TCU game. And you got to watch it. To me, if a team is laying 7 and I can cut them to a 1, I might lock the game -1. But if the team's laying 20 and I got to knock it to 14, it's not the same bet. It's not necessarily as strong a play. And you got to do that with the over-unders too. A 60 down to a 54, you could lock it as an over if you really like the game, if you really like the teams. However, like this week you got Baylor and TCU and Texas Tech, and it's 89. Well, 89 is a really high number to lock. I mean, they still had to score 80 points in a game. It's a decent bet, because you figure you'll get 100, but not the same as if that over/under was 70 and you go over 64. I'd be in Vegas betting that one all day long. So it just depends on the spread. It will dictate the lock. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. So let's get to some action. I like explaining so everybody can learn and understand. Um, let's see. How many locks do I have going this week? 1, 2, 3, 4 locks in college, 2 locks in pros. Last week I had 3-1 in my locks. We had Louisiana Tech winning 8 to Florida International. They ended up only winning by 10, but they still got the win. A little closer than I thought. The reason for that one was Louisiana Tech had lost the prior 2 games. I think they lost to Memphis, who's a really good team, and they lost to Kansas State, and they were playing Florida International at home. They had to win the game. Florida International is not that strong. They were laying, I think, 16 or 17. No, it was 14. They were laying 14, so I cut it to 8. Figured they'd have to win. They'd win by at least 10, and they ended up winning by 10 exactly. The other lock was Mississippi, which was a real shock that they only scored 27 points against a very weak Vanderbilt team. Apparently they had 3 drives in the red zone for 6 points. They kicked 2 field goals and missed 1. So if they just score their touchdowns there, they win it. Looks like Vanderbilt's playing, I think he's the defensive coordinator from Stanford, so they're playing this bend but don't break. When they get to the goal line, make it hard to score. And Ole Miss doesn't really have a great running attack, so they have a harder time running the ball in from the 10 than they would throwing it in. They'll work on that. I still love their quarterback, Kelly. I was shocked because they was at home. I don't know if they were flat from beating Alabama. I took that in consideration. Last year they beat Alabama, and they came on and won the next game big also. So I don't think they were flat. They needed to win. It was an SEC game. Anyway, so that was the other. And then in the pros it was Arizona against the Niners. The Niners are terrible. Arizona's the best team in the NFL. At home, only laying 7. That's what I'm talking about. They're laying 7. I cut them to 1. That's a lock. Arizona at home -1's a lock all the time. But if they were laying 14 and I had to lay 8, I wouldn't have locked the game. So the spread determines the lock. So at 6 or 7, down to 1 or even, you know, Arizona's a lock. So that's what you look at. That's why I didn't lock Seattle last week. I wanted to, but they were 15. I had to cut them to 9. I played them in a regular play, but not in a lock. Had it been maybe even something, maybe even an 11 where I would have got it under 6 or under 7, I could have conceivably locked it. I knew Seattle had to win, and Cam Chancellor was back. Maybe even you know, as high as maybe 12 and a half to get it under 7. I might have locked it. But really in the NFL you're looking, I wanted, like if it was 8 it would have been a huge lock. Anything around that point. But anyway, let's get on to week 5's college games. Air Force and the Navy. The Navy's laying 5.5. The over-under on this was 54 down to 50. So I look at the game and I go, which way do you want to go? I like 2 things here. I've been taught by a coach, a Michigan coach, that when the Army and Navy and Air Force play each other, they practice, and they know they practice against it, so they know how to defend it. So therefore the games are usually low scoring and unders. As I can see, the over-under went from 54, I think, down to 50, which is still a high number. It's still a high number, but basically I like the Air Force and the 11.5 better than I like the over-under of the game to go down to 56. I like them both, but I just like Air Force and 11.5 better. They seem to have a really good offense. They moved a lot on Michigan State and their defense, so I just like who they played so far. I just like Air Force and the 11.5. You could also play the game under 56, but I think they're both winners. But I just like the Air Force getting 11.5 better. And that's where my strategy is. Do I look at the over-under? Do I look at the favorite of the dog? In this case, you know, when these two teams play each other, it's usually a dog and usually an under. Alabama and Georgia. Georgia's laying 2.5. Over/under of 54. I break the game down like this. Neither team has a quarterback. They both are terrible. They both can run the ball, and Alabama's got a better defense than Georgia. So I look at it as they're going to give the ball to Chubb. He'll be lucky to gain 100 yards. Alabama will key on him, take him out of the game. Remember, Alabama is the 72 Steelers, 73 Steelers. You're not going to run on them. You can beat them passing, which is why I took Ole Miss over them. Georgia does not have a passing attack. This quarterback is terrible, which leaves Georgia running Chubb, which is not going to work. Not this matchup. Alabama, since 2009, has been a road dog 0 times. I don't recall. I think in 2008 they were a dog, but I know since 2009 they have not been a dog. They know they're a dog. Believe me, the coach knows, the players know. That defense will come after Chubb. I rate this game even. I like the matchup of Alabama over Georgia. Now the over-under at 54. You could go under 60, which I think is a very good play. But I like Alabama and 8.5 more than I like the under, because for some reason Chubb could break a long run and Alabama could start scoring a lot because they're pissed off. You could have a lot of defensive scores or punt returns. So you got to be careful there. But I don't think either team hits 24. I think Alabama wins the game outright, or it's a field goal game. But I definitely like Alabama getting points. Anytime you get Alabama as an underdog in this situation against the Georgia without a really good quarterback, and their defense is not as strong as Alabama's. So you got to take the matchup, you got to take the defense. Take Alabama 8.5, 8, whatever you can get, over 7. Alright, let's look at Western Kentucky and Rice. Okay, why am I going there? I love Western Kentucky with Doherty's great quarterback. Rice is one of these teams that's showing good quarterback, explosive offense, weak defense. The over-under on this is 72. The spread on it is Western Kentucky laying 7, 7.5. I look at this game as extremely high scoring. It'll hit 100. I think Western Kentucky wins the game, but Rice is going to score a lot, so it's going to be one of these close games. I see Western Kentucky being at least 60 points, Rice probably being in the 40s, maybe even a little higher, maybe a 58-50 game. I think you could play it either way at such a low point, but I think the over is a much stronger play. Going over only 66. I think Western Kentucky can get there by themselves, but I think they'll get close, and Rice is going to score. Western Kentucky's defense is not, it's not Alabama's. They're not going to shut them down. Rice is at home. I just think I don't want the dog. I don't want to bet against Western Kentucky here. So it leaves either Western Kentucky -1 or over 66, and I think over 66 is a joke here. I think they'll more than cover that. Here's another game I was going to lock, but I'll give it to you. I did not lock it, but I love it a lot. Minnesota plays Northwestern. Northwestern's laying 4. Over/under 40.5. First glance, terrific defensive team, Minnesota, no quarterback. Northwestern, terrific defensive team, no quarterback. Not much offense. This game might hit 20 for the winner. Highly unlikely. I don't really love Minnesota in 10 because that Northwestern defense, you saw it against Duke, you saw it against Stanford. Very, very tough to move on. But Minnesota's defense is very tough to move on. I like this game under. Now, if it was a normal over-under of, let's say, 46, I would have definitely locked this at under 52. Under 52. Being it so low at 40.5, I can't lock it because I think it's too low. But I still like it a lot because you have two very strong under teams. Case in point, Northwestern 16, Stanford 6. Then Northwestern beat Duke like 19-10. So you got two games there. You got 22 and a 29. Minnesota played TCU well and held them pretty low, and basically has a very good defensive team. So I just look at two defensive powerhouses at Northwestern. I don't want to mess around with the point spread. I don't love Northwestern as a favorite. They're a very weak favorite. They don't have an offense. Their quarterback's terrible, and the same with Minnesota. So you got two running defensive teams. You're probably not going to get that many turnovers because you're probably going to get run and play ball control. But definitely like under 46.5 here. Very strong play. Let's see, who do I want to give out? I mean, this whole new style. I've got so many games. It's crazy how many I can play here. Alright, let's go to one other one. Michigan playing Maryland. Michigan laying 16, over under was 46, down to 43. Here's another game that, when looking at it, you got Michigan on the road. Michigan, very good defensive team, average quarterback, getting a little better with Harbaugh. You're going to run the ball, and they got a great defense. Maryland, they got blown out by West Virginia like 49-0. I don't see them scoring very many points. Their defense is average. Michigan should be able to run all over them and run the clock and play the defense. Laying 16 on the road. Am I comfortable laying 10? And this is the whole analysis. Do I want to lay 10, or do I want to go over 37 or under 49? And I think the under 49 is the best way to play this game. Michigan could win by 9 points, easily. They could get a late touchdown by Maryland. Maryland can throw the ball. They have a decent quarterback. They're more of an over team, but they're just a weak team. I just think Michigan's defense controls the game. Their running attack controls the game. I look for it to be low scoring, but again, they could easily win 21 to 14, and you don't win with Michigan laying 16 or 10, but you're way under. So I just see this as an under 49 is the way I would play that. And I'll give you one other that, well, I don't want to give you that one. Watch North Texas and Southern Miss. Southern Miss is laying 16, and this is one of the teams I was talking about where they changed their offensive coordinator. They changed around their offense. North Texas is a terrible team, and they're a bet against team. So it's almost like whoever they play, you just bet against. Southern Miss has been showing signs of a high-scoring team. When I look at the spread, it's 16, and then the over-under is 66, and I'm going, why is the over-under 66? North Texas really is not a high-scoring team. So I think that's way off. I think Southern Miss, you could cut to 10's probably a winner. I think Southern Miss, kind of blows them out here because they can. This is a win for them, and they need to win, and they've been playing decent ball. So I just think Southern Miss laying 10.5 against a weak North Texas team gets the cover. I don't like the over because I don't think North Texas is going to score so many points. I think Southern Miss could put up 40, but I don't see North Texas scoring 20. So I definitely like Southern Miss to win in this game. And that's about it. I have several real strong plays and locks. I can't even, there's so many to talk about. It's I could go every game basically. Alright everybody, well this is Howard, the Teaser King. Please go to www.teaserking.com. Last week I was 9-1 on my over-unders, and I think I was 6-2 on the regular games. It was like I was losing early a little bit, and then all of a sudden Michigan State scores 2 touchdowns. I get the W there, and then everything else was a W all day long, and all the over-unders came in perfectly. So it was a very good week last week. Anyway, please go to www.teaserking.com. You can buy the week, you can buy the month, buy the year, whatever you like to do. Highly recommend it. I've been very, very hot. I've had 3 big weeks and 1 losing week, and that's just the nature of the beast. But I've got this pretty well figured out right now, and I don't see losing too many more weeks. So good luck everybody, and I hope this helps make you money. Have a nice weekend. Good luck.